Hello everyone, my name is Blackwatch and welcome to another episode of my Siege lore series. Big thank you to those of you who've decided to subscribe. There was a massive boost in the last week or so of subs. I think part of it is to do with the fact that I have mentioned 90% of you aren't subbed, and it seems like a lot of you have come around to address that particular problem, so thank you very much. You will be seeing more uploads more frequently, and if you'd like to sub to see more of these videos, please feel free to do so. But in this week's episode, we're going to be looking at the Vector Glare Battle Pass. Now, this is something that Simon Ducharme, one of the narrative writers on Siege, has done in the past, and yet again, they've done it this time. It's on their Twitter page, I'll leave a link in the description to it. It's a breakdown of all the little tidbits of lore that we get given in the Siege Battle Pass. There's a lot more to it than you would have thought going into this. A lot of little bits that are tied to specific items. You actually have to click on those items to see the lore, and this is a good place to get some of the more nitty-gritty details that we might not find in the larger general story items. So definitely worth a look. If you want to see Simon's take on it, I've left their description there, or their take on it there. I kind of feel like I'm basically retreading what they've already covered. I feel a bit bad about it, but I also feel like this is a really good opportunity to get this out there for more people to see. So without absolutely plagiarizing what they've done, I'm going to go through each tier, screenshots that I've taken, thankfully unranked, so you don't see the embarrassment of my rank this season, and we can go through and talk about all the little details that I've managed to find, courtesy of the Siege team. So, first of all, the story tab, to be of service. I could never put my finger on it, but helping people is what fuels me. The training, the tinkering, the strategizing. I excel at it, yes, but it's not why I wanted to do this. My family taught me the value of empathy, regardless of what divides us. With Wolfgard, I am not alone. Each of them is also dedicated to making the world a better place, and I'm happy to be a part of that. We're already on the field and rescuing people. I'm on missions with the elite because I'm also one of the elite. With the architectural blueprints acquired, we move on Nighthaven. I can't imagine why they would do what the others say, but I wasn't here to see what kind of people they are. I trust that we know what we're doing. I have to help to minimise the damage. So this is Sens. They're talking about what has happened as of recently. Architectural blueprints acquired. As far as I'm aware, this is referring to what we've seen on the board through Valkyrie's intel gathering, that we do know the location of Nighthaven's HQ. It's in Singapore, and we now obviously have some sort of blueprints for the building that they have there. And it looks like Rainbow are going to be looking to launch some sort of assault or investigation, infiltration thing there. But we don't know for sure. But anyway, this is Sens's thoughts on Wolfgard, on their position in the organisation, and on what is to come. Obviously, they've come into the organisation after Nighthaven have had their little spat, and so they're in a bit more of a unique position to see the dynamic of the team after Nighthaven is gone, and we're going to reflect on that further, particularly with how Doc is feeling now. But yeah, we'll move on to the next one. So we have a little breakdown page here. Sensory strategy. Soldiers, tacticians, scientists, analysts, together they make the machine run. Sens combines a bit of each to become a one-person army. Pretty self-explanatory, again referring to Wolfgard, the team that Sens and the rest of them are a part of, and you know, some nice fancy imagery. The decked out set that I've got on them there, looking very sharp indeed. And we move on to the first item with lore, and that is Wolfguard standard for Doc. It's a headgear. This squad, this mission, made me reflect on my choices. I wanted a combat role because I can't always trust others to do the right thing. With Wolfguard, I can take a step back, coordinate things, and trust that my team will do what's necessary and what's right. So he's referring to the way that he's acted in the past. He, obviously from seeing Doc's operator video, we can see that he decided to go into military work because he had an opportunity to use his skills in a place where otherwise you may not find the right people to do the right thing, and he could actively influence the behaviour of other people as well on the front line and try to reduce unnecessary casualties, unnecessary pain and suffering in the field. Similarly, that's what he was doing in Rainbow, where you wouldn't necessarily trust everyone to be able to do what he does, but now that he is in a position where he's surrounded by people who are tailor-made for that kind of work, he's able to take that step back, put the comfy jacket on with the headset, and stay in the control room instead of having to be out in the field. Although I imagine we'll see Big Gustav out there gun in hand regardless, at some point or other. Onto his dog tag. A lot of the operators in this particular battle pass do have a dog tag. Members of Wolfgard, I was going to say Nighthaven, imagine that. And on those dog tags, I'm saying doc because I'm reading doc. It's not that late, but still, we have their code name, nickname, whatever it is. So in this case, Doc, and then their surname, so Kateb, and then a quote or phrase or whatever that has some meaning to them. So is it Paracelsus, I'm not sure, but that's what it is for Doc, and this is referencing something that's actually in the text up there. Paracelsus, I should have looked this up in advance, but I didn't. Once said the dose makes the poison, so the thing that's on the dog tag is referring to that quote, just shorthand. And then Wolfguard R6 at the bottom to round it out, so we'll not have to go over that format again, but that's what it is for now. The dose makes the poison. I believe balance is needed to heal the world. Take a life to save a life. Where is my place in this equation? I want to be remembered for the life I gave in service to others. That's Doc speaking there. So it's reflecting more on not just the sacrifice of giving life, but in giving life through service. So obviously not laying your life down, but dedicating your life and its work to others and to helping others however they can. Wolfguard tech, shotgun skin. When I arrived, Doc held his gun as close as his medkit. I've seen a change. It was tense when Nighthaven left, but Doc got calm. No more what ifs, no more infighting. He was relieved. He was ready to go out and help people. And that's Thunderbird speaking there. Interesting, I did refer to this earlier on, where Sens was in a position where they've not been exposed to the infighting that took place when Nighthaven were there. But clearly Doc has benefited from their departure quite quickly. More chilled out, more willing to take a more hands-off approach to his work, while still obviously being there in the forefront by helping everyone out, being in the control room. But it sounds like, based off what other people are saying, he has chilled out a little bit, which is nice. We don't want to see intense, angry Doc like we did during Outbreak. Wolfguard Standard, this is a headgear for Sens, and it's a quote from Sens. I rarely hide my face, but in action it helps me focus during the more intense moments. When you're fighting a big guy with minigun and rage in his heart, you don't take any chances. Or you don't take chances. That's me embellishing the text there, because I'm a bad man. Plus, I look so cool with this mask on. Image matters, okay? I concur, they do look very good with that mask on. Getting some heavy Splinter Cell vibes. Thinking of the co-op missions with Kestrel in Splinter Cell Conviction. Very nice mask. Very good look. Very cool idea. I like it. I like it a lot. Wolfguard Standard uniform for Doc. Quote from Lion here. It took some time, but Doc understands why I did what I did. He won't accept it, but at least it's no longer in the way. We might do things differently, but we're working towards the same goal. That has to be enough, because no one else can carry this weight like we do. I think he's referring here to the weight of responsibility to other people. It's obviously a burden that they share. It seems as though Lion is sort of taking almost a second in command type position. I would also say it seems like Twitch is maybe taking a similar role, so I think the command structure, as far as I can tell, seems to be Doc at the top, and then lieutenants almost would be Twitch and Lion, based off of what we saw in the Wolfguard short. But again, I don't know. I'm speculating there, but that's the whole point of what I do here. So Lion does have to shoulder that responsibility. Obviously, he has taken a big level of responsibility for the people around him, for the people that he's looking to save, and obviously the teammates that he is leading into battle. And it looks like they've finally managed to, if not completely bury the hatchet, at least move the hatchet aside enough to now get on in a working relationship that seems to be functional, and that is a big deal, because for the longest time that conflict between Lion and Doc has been a very prevalent and nasty thing for everyone to have to deal with, but now it seems to be a more chilled out and pleasant relationship in some ways or another. And it goes into an element that I maybe wouldn't have expected, a sort of responsibility that one character places upon another that is very indicative indeed of the change and the respect that's now built between them, rather than the animosity that came before. Wolfguard Sens, so this is Sens's charm. Apologies that you're only seeing the one side of the charms, but that's just the way it is, I'm afraid. I didn't take a screenshot of the other one. It was late at night when I did these screenshots, so yeah, you're just getting the one. Life is a song. Sounds weird, I know, but it is. It's not always a good one, and the loudest singer is rarely the best one. But when you follow the rhythm, you can make things happen. That reminds me, Ying asked if I could share some of my sister's music with her. Now we know that Sens' sister plays EDM, or has an interest in EDM. We see that from their bio, and the little quote that we've got here is "keep jamming," and that is Sens' quote to live by. I think it's very topical for the character. You see it in their animations as well, in the, not the home screen, sorry, in the main menu. When you're going, oh not the main menu, I'm all over the place tonight guys, I'm very sorry. When you go into the character menu and look at Sens, you can see that they're sitting jamming out to whatever's playing in the earphones. And then also in the little video that we got for Wolfgard, we see that Sens has Tafet playing in the background whilst they're blasting someone who is very keen to blast them, but unfortunately not quite so successful for them. Wolfguard's standard uniform for Sens is a quote from Doc, so that is squad leader looking at squad member. Sens fits right in with the unit. They proved themselves in our last mission. Lion and Montagne were very clear about that. I'm actually worried they might be shouldering too much. As friendly as they are, I need them to remember that they can count on their squad mates and on me whenever they need to. Teamwork is a two-way street. Pretty simple, self-explanatory stuff. Obviously, if he's happy with what Sens has done, then the rest of the team are going to be happy as well. Wolfguard seems to be a unit that's working really well. We've not had any issues, any animosity come about from what we've seen so far. So I think it shows that moving forward with the squads in Rainbow has proven so far to be a really good and positive choice, and we'll see more of that in the future, I would imagine. Wolfguard Twitch is a charm, and it's a quote from Twitch herself. On the charm we have Twitch, Pichon, does it have E? I think. I can't see that for certain. I'm on console, so the graphics aren't quite as crisp as they are on PC. But I mean, she's called Emmanuelle Pichon, so yeah, I would imagine Pichon E. And connections don't die, is the quote. It's strange to think of mortality. I know what I signed up for, but I want to live long enough to see a day when we can be uploaded to a cloud and live as long as we wish to. Until then, robot soldiers would be nice. So, it's a bit of a quip at the end, but it also highlights the interest that Twitch has in seeing people preserved and seeing life preserved, not just her own life, but the life of people around her, and even, I suppose, by extension, the lives of those that she has to fight against. Robot soldiers would be nice, because then human life wouldn't be put in danger over conflicts that could hopefully otherwise be resolved without violence, or with violence that doesn't involve people and a loss of life. I think one of the prevailing themes that we'll see with these dog tags is ultimately a dog tag is used for one thing, and that's identifying the dead. And this theme of identifying the dead, it's almost like it gives the characters a chance to reflect on their own mortality and the idea of dying in the field during operations. And so we get a little glimpse into their thoughts on that topic. I know a lot of these guys, based off of stuff that I've heard from people who are actually in military positions. I've known a number of people in various areas in the military just based off of institutions I grew up in, what their opinions are when it comes to mortality and how they approach mortality. And I feel like for a lot of soldiers, especially soldiers who've been in the game for a long time, mortality is not something they actively think about after a certain amount of time, because you shift from fearing death in that moment to instead realizing that you're in a position where death is always present, and your entire goal is to complete your objective and not die. And you go into a sort of autopilot where you'll carry out these tasks, and the understanding, or let's say the conscious understanding of that risk, isn't quite as prevalent. Obviously, I have no experience of this. I've never been in a conflict zone. I've not had any involvement in the military. As I say, I've had close ties with a lot of people who have been in the military, and from what they have told me, it does become less of a directly conscious thing when you're in conflict, and you focus much more on the actions that you're taking. And so letting these people have a moment to actually think about mortality and the risk of death in the field is not something that necessarily crosses their mind with the frequency that you would think it would when they're taking bullets every day. So just something for us civvies to think about anyway. Wolfguard standard uniform for Twitch. This got a quote from Doc. I'm glad to have Twitch with me on this assignment. Her empathy, intellect and expertise belong on this team. Her enthusiasm complements her perfectionism. She's one of the only people I know who can utilise both. Simple quote again. I think it just shows the amount of faith that Doc has in Twitch as one of the sort of de facto leaders within the squad, and she's got all the various attributes that he's really looking for in someone to fit that role. Wolfgard Tech, this is a skin for Sens with a quote from Lion talking about Sens. It takes a special kind of soldier to exhaust every other option before they start shooting. From fighting by their side, I know that Sens understands when it's time to hold or to stop holding back. They have the mind for the job and the heart that makes it worth the effort. So another nice quote talking about Sens, talking about how they've managed to fit into the squad well. That focus again on minimising conflict, minimising casualties however possible, but also on ultimately understanding that when the chips are down, when people aren't cooperating, sometimes you're just going to have to end it with a gunshot, and that's just the way it's got to go sometimes. Wolfguard standard headgear for Twitch, another quote from Twitch. Supporting my fellow squad members is a role I take very seriously. I scout and coordinate, but I also fix their equipment when they're away from home, when we're away from home. Maybe I can give Mira's design some tech upgrades while I'm at it. Very cheeky stuff. It's simple, but it shows again the conscientiousness of Twitch as a character. I feel like Twitch hasn't had a huge showcase compared to a lot of the other characters who are getting covered in this. We see a lot more of the other ones through other media that's happened in the past. Doc has obviously seen a lot of screen time compared to other characters. Lion has seen quite a bit as well. He's seen quite a bit in the spin-off Extraction, but also in Siege and just in the way that his story has played out. Twitch, I feel like, is more of a fringe character. It doesn't tend to get as much of a showcase, and so I think it's nice for her to get this focus put on her, and just to highlight again how conscientious she is. She's looking out for her teammates when they're in these situations, but also a little bit cheeky, a bit of tech rivalry there. I think there was, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know that there's some sort of rivalry that she had with someone else. I think it may have been Echo, that the two of them were kind of goading each other in the R&D reviews, but I would need to go back and look through that. This is just off the top of my head. Wolfguard Thunderbird charm, no quote on this one. Instead we do have the usual stuff. So we've got Thunderbird, Sky, I cannot remember her first name, Mina I think it is, and Love, Wisdom, Bravery. Shocking that I can't remember the first name. Let me check that quickly. It is Mina. I was second guessing myself and I didn't mean to do it. I did mean to do it because I should have got it right the first time. But anyway, Love, Wisdom, Bravery. Can't read into this too much, but it seems to reflect on the values that Thunderbird has as a person. We've discussed this in the past as well with the Wolfguard video. But again, just a short little tidbit from them. Wolfguard Tech, this is skin for Twitch, and a quote from Ying. Twitch and I haven't had many opportunities to work together so far, but our capabilities are well matched. I'd like to hear more about this AI research she does, and how we could use it to improve our combat capabilities. Again, adding more to the Twitch lexicon in terms of what she's done in the past. Lexicon is not the right word. Let's just say grimoire. That's also kind of self-indulgent word, but it's one that I'm going to go for. Let's stick with that. But add into her mystique. No. I'm picking every incorrect term that I could possibly pick here. Like, grimoire's not even close to the right term. I literally just picked grimoire because that's what Bungie uses to call their lore tomes that they make. But anyway, lore. Adding to Twitch's lore, because we're seeing the way that our teammates think of her, and I think this is one of the best ways that we can actually explore characters, is by seeing the way that other characters talk about them and think about them. It just fills in a lot of the gaps that you otherwise wouldn't hear from someone talking about themselves or talking about an aspect of themselves, because it's a one-sided thing. It's nice to see characters through the lens of other characters' perspectives. Wolfgard Clash, Charm. We have Clash, Evans, Maroa, and it is Redirect the Storm. Now, this one I kind of read as basically a pretty solid description of what it is she does. She'll take a lot of damage from the front and she'll dish it back out as lightning. So she is literally redirecting the storm of violence and gunfire and chaos on the front, redistributed with a much more focused electricity burst on the other side. It could also be seen as just her actually taking those hits and then sort of dealing them back, just doing what the police do, or at least try to do in the UK, which is more focused on controlling and, you know, trying to subdue violence rather than add to violence in situations like public order situations that Clash was brought up with in her bread and butter sort of scenarios as both a protester and then as a police officer. She was exposed to plenty of involvement in public order scenarios, and that is exactly where you're going to be seeing her work with the riot shield, cracking some heads, or trying not to crack heads in this case. But, you know, it really depends who you're dealing with, I suppose. Sometimes people do need their heads cracked if they're very nasty people. And if they're not nasty people, then they just need to be told to step back and not get hit by lunatics who take advantage of the office. Anyway, we can talk about that in a different video. That's overstepping the bounds a wee bit here. Wolfguard standard headgear from Mont, with a quote from Mont himself. I don't wear these colours for status. I don't need authority or accolades. That's not for me. This uniform proves I'm in the right place. Simple stuff. I was going to say from a simple man, but that's kind of insulting. I'm sorry guys, this has got to be the worst video I've ever done, but it's 20 minutes and I'm not going to do a retake, I'm afraid, so you're just going to have to take it and like it. I don't wear these colours for status. I don't need authority or accolades. That's not for me. It's a very easy quote to understand. Mont is just the kind of guy who wants to get the job done and is happy to be around people who share his proclivity for what it is he does. He is not there to deal damage. He is not there to try and take life. He is there to prevent his teammates from taking damage, and also essentially to give the opponent a second chance, because if they mag dump into his shield unsuccessfully, at least then it's easier for Rainbow to take a non-lethal approach to bringing them in, rather than being forced to immediately go for that lethal approach, which a lot of times with counter-terrorism units is unfortunately the first port of call. And straight into another piece of Montagne lore, we have his charm. So Montagne, Touré Gilles, or Giles, Gilles, I think it's Gilles, I'm not sure, because I'm not fully versed in Francais. Désolé. Wolfgard Montagne, learn from the past, don't stand in it, give no ground, and march forward. And that is the quote, march forward on the dog tag. Seems very, very appropriate to what we know about Mont. Big fan of this one. Wolfguard standard uniform from Montagne with a quote from Sens. Interesting, considering they've not known each other for too long, so we're going to be getting quite a unique perspective here. Imposing men aren't always kind or patient. Montagne manages to be both. There's an understanding there. We don't need to say much. We recognise each other's victories, and we have matching outfits. So, Sens obviously a fan of Montagne, and enjoys a little bit of fashion coordination. Certainly can't complain on my part for that particular topic, although my fashion sense is absolutely shocking. On to the next one, we have Wolfguard Ying. This is a charm that doesn't have a quote, but it is Ying, Lin, Sume. I think it's Sume Lin? Yeah, pretty sure. And pedal to the metal. This one, interesting. We haven't had a huge insight into what Ying is like, but this would imply that her playstyle in game is similar to the way that she actually is, as in she looks to disturb as many people as possible with her candelas and then sprint in and, you know, crack some heads as quickly as she possibly can before they get the chance to even see their heads being cracked. So I like it, sounds good to me. Wolfguard tech skin for Lion with a quote from Montagne. I'm the big man with the shield, so I always take the lead. I know what to expect from the front, but the back worries me sometimes. Not with Lion. He covers all the angles and holds his ground. We're basically unstoppable. We see this from the short that the two of them are together alongside Sens on that mission to go and find out more about Yahata and Nighthaven, their involvement in Yahata's death. Clearly they get on well. They're both from GIGN as well, so there's that shared background that is kind of resonant through most of Nighthaven's top end staff. Seeming on Nighthaven, my god, what a mistake to make. Most of Wolfguard's top end staff, so we have Doc, Lion, Twitch and Montagne all being from the GIGN. Meanwhile Rook is off on a different squad, something that we can talk about in another day. But again, just showing that faith that the guys have for each other at the top end. They all like Twitch, they all like Mont, they all like Lion, they all like Doc, they all like Sens, they all like everybody pretty much, and that's the way you want it to go. Smooth as possible, especially when they're dealing with these high sensitivity situations where life is paramount. And the Wolfguard Lion charm, quote from Lion here, we all want to make a difference, that's obvious. I'm willing to put my life on the line now to make sure Alexis, his son, has a future. If I don't come home one day, I know Kateb will make sure my son is okay. He promised. Now, this is what I was referring to earlier on. As we may or may not know, I certainly do, Gustav Kateb, is Doc. And this shows just how far the two have come. So they've managed to overcome this animosity to the point where now Doc has actually promised to make sure that Lion's son is alright in the event that he was to lose his life in the field. And that's huge to me. That's a kind of trust that you wouldn't place in an ordinary person. So clearly they have a level of respect for each other that is far beyond what we would have expected in the past. And kind of fitting with that particular sentiment that he's expressing there. His quote is, guard the future. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. Guard the future. Make sure his kid's okay. And Lion, Olivier, I think it's Olivier, or it might be Oliver. Again, I'm sorry for these approximations, but a lot of this information I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head. Flamand? Again, guessing. I'm very sorry to the French people out there, but that's the way it goes. Wolfguard standard uniform for Lion with a quote from Sens. We're second last here. Lion has good instincts. I trust him on the field, and he's very thoughtful outside of it. Unfortunately, he loves metal music, so we're sworn enemies. Just kidding. We exchange playlists. Next time we're deployed, maybe I'll listen to something heavier. Good point, Sens. You should listen to something heavier, because as much as I'm sure you enjoy Tafet and other songs, maybe you would also enjoy a little bit of Silosis. You know, some shredding from Reading metal. Silosis, very, very good band. You should check them out if you're interested. Rammstein, Ghost, fantastic band from Sweden. lots of other things to listen to, but aye. Just another quote showing that the bond is strong between members of Wolfgard. They work well together, they have a lot of admiration for each other, and Sens fit in very quickly and very easily into the team, even if they have a music taste that is insulting to the best part of the music industry, but that's okay, that's okay. And the last one, Wolfguard standard headgear for Lion, with a quote from Lion: I didn't always make good decisions, but I'm happy with the person that I became. I don't have to change how people see me, and they don't need to accept me. Working alongside the others in Wolfguard, I can at least say I'm doing something good. Now this is referring to Lion's pretty troubled past that he had involving his child. He was kind of off the rails at one point in his life. He ended up impregnating someone and then actually pressured that woman to have an abortion. This is despite the fact that that's none of his business. And yeah, not the best look for someone that we obviously now know is a much better person these days. He later went on to embrace faith. He became quite a devout Catholic. Actually met his son years later and now has a much stronger relationship with his former partner and with his child. Obviously we see how much his son means to him based off the text that we've seen and the lore that we know, and it's just good to see another example of someone being able to reform through whatever means it is that helps them, whether it's faith, whether it's whatever. I mean, everybody's got their thing that can help them out in a situation of dire need. For me, it's not faith, but for some people it is, and we've all just got to embrace anything that makes people better and allows them to improve themselves. And that's exactly what this is focusing on. It's about who you are now, not who you were before. So, this has been a bumper video. Jesus, it's 32 minutes long, bloody hell. I've had the timer away the whole time we've been doing this, but hopefully it's worth watching. I will catch you guys in the next one after this. Do pobачення, everybody. Bye bye.